Becca, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit and learn more about Rephonic and more specifically your role at Rephonic. And also, everybody, Becca wrote an article that kind of featured me a little bit, but also featured some different AI tools in the podcast world, which we'll get into. But Becca, tell everybody a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got into marketing, because I know before Rephonic, you've had a background in marketing and content. So let's hear a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm from the UK, and
we could tell.
Yeah, you can tell already from like the Midlands, but I've kind of been up and down. So how I got into marketing, it seems quite random actually, because back sort of uni times, I did lots of workaways, which I don't know if you know what they are, but they're like you go to someone else's house or whatever, and then you do a bit of work in exchange for living there and whatever. And so I started doing some kind of marketing stuff then, writing blog posts, creating video content. Didn't really know what I was doing, but it was just, something that I was interested in. It was super fun. And then post-uni, I didn't really know what I was doing, but then eventually I got an internship in marketing and then did that for a while. Then got a job with that company, which was like an Airbnb management company, did that for a few years. And then COVID happened, and at the end of COVID, I thought I was ready to change it up. So then I became self-employed and saw that Rephonic needed someone to lead all their marketing stuff, and it started from there. I've been doing it for the past 2.5 years now.
And did Rephonic, were you drawn to them because you were interested in podcasts? And if not, that's totally okay. I just wanted to see why Rephonic, and did you have were you listening to podcasts, or did you start getting into the podcast world because of Rephonic?
That's a good question. So I wasn't a mad podcast fan. I did have the odd podcast that I would listen to occasionally, but it was more, I like working with startups, right, and companies that are in a up and coming industry. And I'd seen that podcasting through the pandemic had become this massive thing, and everyone was talking about it. I knew people, at the place I was working at before, that were trying to start their own podcasts. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, this sounds super exciting. Want to get more into, get more into the industry, and that's how it happened.
Okay, yeah, so a little bit of being involved in listening to podcasts, but just seeing the boom. It's funny because COVID. I've been working in podcasting at least part-time since 2015, but it's crazy. What happened from 2018 through COVID, it just blew up. So all that to say, it's cool because there are a lot of opportunities right now in that space, and so it's awesome that you got to take advantage of that, and I did as well. And it's just great to see that all growing and people's enthusiasm for podcasting growing more, and just more opportunities. So very cool. So let's tell the listeners, and I know you work in the marketing department, but can you give us just a little rundown of what Rephonic is and what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So Rephonic is a database of over 2.5 million podcasts. And for every podcast, we've got a lot of data like listener numbers, gender skew, audience location, etc. And it's to help brands, either with or without a podcast, agencies, for example, podcast booking agencies or marketing agencies, and also podcasters if they are looking to get featured on other shows. So it's essentially a search tool, and also to qualify, so you can make sure that you find the right shows that you're gonna get the most impact from.
It's funny because I knew a little bit about Rephonic and you, and we've kind of chatted a little bit on LinkedIn in the past. But speaking of like one of the features, so I was at a podcast conference last week here in the U.S. and in Utah, and this guy came up to me, and he's like, "Have you heard about Rephonic?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know a little bit about what they do." He's like, and then he like made me go on my phone, and he's like, "Okay, go to the website and scroll all the way down, and then there's like you can type in the name of your podcast, and then you can see." I believe it's other people that listen to your show. You can see like additional shows that are like linked to your show. So he's like, if you want to be a guest, he's like, reach out to these shows because it's in the same like style and niche as you, and it's likely that they will want to like have you on, or you can have them on, and it's a really cool connection. Yeah, that's probably the most exciting feature I've saw without getting further involved in what you guys do.
Yeah, no, so that's the graph tool, and that is, you know, people love that one because it's so so visual, and it's like a spider's web of all connected shows. And so yeah, you can type in your podcast or any podcast, and then it will come up with a web of shows that share a similar audience. So yeah, super useful for cross promo to find suitable shows. And it just gives you like a starting point as well.
Love that. So tell us about your specific role at Rephonic, what you do, what you work on, and your role in marketing. So I cover everything to do with marketing. So anything that needs doing, that's me. So a lot of it is SEO. So getting the Rephonic website to rank. I do those industry articles, which you might have seen. I post on LinkedIn about them every now and then. And so for that, because obviously Rephonic has a ton of data, I'll go in and I'll do some coding type stuff and pull up all of these insights, and then find some cool stuff that people are interested, like how long should your episodes be or something. Yeah, and so they're good for getting the word out as well about Rephonic. And then just thinking of new ways to get as many people to see Rephonic and use it as possible. For example, we just launched as well a YouTube channel that James is the founder of Rephonic. He features in it, and you know, we've started off with, I think we've got 4 videos on there at the moment. One of them is how to collaborate with other shows, one's how to be a guest, how to advertise, etc. And so yeah, just testing out stuff and doing more of what works. Just testing the YouTube waters now. That's a journey in itself, but it's good that you started. I started mine like a year ago. I wish I would have started it like 10 years ago. But so let's talk a little bit about your writing, because you're an excellent writer, and I want to talk a little bit about like the blog specifically. So when you guys are coming up with articles or topics to write about, is it like data driven, or is it more creative, or a little bit of both? I know you mentioned keywords, which I do want to talk more about. But like, where do you find what to write about? Is it like, I want to provide like education and write about like things happening in the podcast industry? Is it, obviously it's not just random. So how do you kind of come up with topics and how to educate and share information? Yeah,
so I use a tool called SEMrush, basically, sure. Which if you've not used it before... I'm an Ahrefs guy. Ah, nice. Yeah, I've not jumped sides yet, but yeah, it's super useful because you type in a keyword and you can see all of the related keywords. Like if you've got an idea, you can see how many people are searching for it. You can see how hard it is to rank for. You can like keep up with competitors and stuff. So normally it happens because I think of articles, I think of ideas first, you know, oh, it'd be cool to write about something to do with AI and podcasting or whatever. And then I'll go on there, have a little search, and I'll be like, oh yeah, it looks like podcasts, like we'll talk about that article, the summarizers article, summarizers keyword, you know, people are searching for it, but there's not many articles out there at the moment. So let's give it a try. Let's write something and you know, see how much traffic we can get from it.
Yeah, like high volume, low competition keywords. That's the name of the game. The last episode of, well, it actually came out yesterday, Wednesday, not the 24th, depending on when you're listening to this, but it was all about that. Yeah, finding keywords that are being searched a lot, but there's not that much information out there on, which is funny because you would think everything's been covered in the world, and it maybe to some extent, but like there's stuff that, and I guarantee podcasters, people listening to this, in your niche that people are looking for that hasn't really been covered. And so these keyword research tools, SEMrush, I use one called Ahrefs. There's a bunch of them, but yeah, they kind of give you that information, which is really cool. And is the goal with content, like, are you just trying to drive brand awareness? Are you trying to convert people to sign up for Rephonic? Is it's probably split? What's that like?
Yeah, so it's split. It depends what the keyword is. So you'll have, your top of the funnel ones, which are not, people aren't looking for a product yet. They're just kind of searching around, something related to the podcasting industry. We'll get our name out there, get the brand awareness, and then the more as you get towards the bottom of the funnel, they're the ones where we're like, okay, now try Rephonic, give it a go. You've read all this. It's obvious that you're interested in guesting or advertising on podcasts. So that's when we'll try and, get the reader to have a go.
And do you guys do like any affiliate marketing, or is that not something within the content that you guys do to try to monetize on the side?
Yeah, we don't do that. No, so it's all direct to Rephonic product is the aim. Sure. I know that makes total sense with a company of that size, and I'm trying to grow the affiliate stuff. But so question, let's talk a little bit about AI. So like how, this is kind of like a multi-part question, but your thoughts on AI in general, your thoughts on AI in the podcasting world, and then kind of your, like, how you incorporate AI in your writing, if at all. Mm-hmm. So,
and the other staff's writing, and just kind of like the blog in general. I'd love to hear, like, because it's such a hot topic.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, AI is a crazy thing. Sometimes I'll have my days where I'll be thinking about it and I'll be like, oh, there's so many ideas about what I can do with it and how we can use it for Rephonic. And then other days I'll wake up and I'll be like, this is so scary. Like, want to stay away from it. But yeah, generally I find it super useful. So I use it probably on a daily basis, whether it's ChatGPT or some other tool that I'm kind of testing out, always trying to keep on top of it. But in terms of how we use it or how I use it for writing, so because, well, a lot of, I only write or tend normally to write the industry articles, and then we have someone who writes the other blog posts. And so when it comes to me writing the industry articles, I just tend to, my first thing is just to write it as I would be explaining it to someone and just let it all come out on the paper. It probably doesn't sound great or it's not refined yet, but just to kind of get it out there on the paper as I would be saying it kind of makes the most sense. And then, if I'm, historically, I've not been great with writing, right? It's a skill that I've definitely, yeah. It's a skill that I've definitely had to learn and, try over and over again. But, sometimes I'll use ChatGPT. I'll be like, what's a better way of saying this? And it will come up with something else. And I'll be like, okay, that makes sense. And I'll kind of make it a bit different, so it actually sounds like me or sounds like a human, because anything taken straight from ChatGPT, I'm like, okay, I get the whiff of AI, and I prefer obviously to keep that out. But yeah, that's how I use it at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair. I have like a similar philosophy. I use it, almost every day for various different things, but I incorporate it into some of my writing as well. It's funny, like your copy sounds amazing when you write it. So you got to give yourself a little credit there. Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, what's your favorite platform to check out podcasts?
If I just at home, then I will prefer to use YouTube, just have the video on as well. But if I'm driving, then I have Spotify.
Spotify, I feel like, is more international than UK. Apple is big too.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's one marketing podcast that people should check out?
It's funny you ask that because I don't actually listen to marketing podcasts. So I couldn't tell you that one. I'm more of a LinkedIn for marketing kind of person. So
okay.
Yeah, I keep the podcast for non-work stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to blend the two. I agree. I listen to some stuff about podcasting and the podcasts about podcasting, and I'm like, this is exhausting. I need to listen to some music or something. Okay, so how many podcasts are currently in your phone, or what do you have queued up?
So, I mean, I used to listen to Diary of a CEO. That used to be the only one that I would listen to. But I feel like it's taken a different turn recently, and I'm not sure about it anymore. So that one's kind of gone down, and I'm actually at the moment trying to find new shows that are interesting. I listened to one recently because I was traveling around Turkey, and when I'm traveling I like to kind of understand the culture and the history and everything, and so I was listening to this podcast about Turkish history, which was quite interesting. So I don't really have one show that I'll just listen to all the time. It's more sort of where I'm at and what interests me at that moment. I'll have a search.
Traveling a lot, yeah, I love that. Getting some insight on the culture. And my wife's family, they were from various places in the Middle East, but Turkey is one of them. I want to make it out there. Turkey, Lebanon, although hopefully it's not too sketchy. But in any case, all right. So have you been to any podcast conferences? If so, do you have a favorite, or have you not?
So I've been to one. So it seems like a long time ago, but it was the podcast show in London. It wasn't this past year, it was the year before. But that was super cool.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it was cool. There were lots of, big names there. Louis Theroux was there, and I love him, so that was cool to go and listen to him talk. And yeah, that was, I'd only recently started a Rephonic at this point, so it was kind of, there's so much going on, and I was just kind of trying to be a sponge and take it all in. But yeah, it was cool to go.
Yeah, I had a buddy from here that actually went out for that, which is really cool. There's one coming up in LA called Podcast Movement, which is in March, which I'll be going to. But yeah, love conferences. They're fun, great way to meet people. Did Rephonic have a booth?
We didn't.
Okay.
We were sort of scoping it all out.
So, what's the size of Rephonic? Do you know how many coworkers you have, or approximately?
Yeah, so there's James, the founder, and then there's me. I'm self-employed, so I do a few days a week.
Oh, you are self-employed. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
so you've got this going on, and then your other side gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I didn't know that. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. I like to keep it varied. And then we have a graphic designer as well. I can't remember where she is based. And then we also have the content writer. And then, yeah.
So there's only a handful of you. Small. You're naming every person. Oh, I thought there was hundreds of people.
No.
Okay. Very startup, very DIY. I like that. Yeah, the podcast Haven were the same. I have several, 2 editors, a producer, and everyone's contracted. So at any given time, there's probably 3 to 6 of us. So I like that.
Nice.
Keep it lean and kind of gives everyone you sound like you enjoy traveling and kind of having a life where you kind of are in control of your destiny. So I like that, freelance, where you can kind of control more of your decisions and stuff.
Yeah. For me, it just works super well.
Same. And this is just a fun question because this kind of sparked it in me because I like to travel as well. I have a daughter now, so not as much. But you mentioned you might be going to Bulgaria. Is that just for like a little bit, a couple weeks? Or are you planning on like going to live there?
Not to live,
Okay.
but I will be there for a month, maybe sort of 4 or 5 weeks. And then I'll actually be heading to Australia. My friend's getting married, and so I'll spend, a month or two maybe out there.
Oh, I'm so jealous. That sounds amazing. And it's like warm. It's summer-ish in Australia right
Yeah,
now, right?
it will be nice.
Yeah, dude, good for you. That's so cool. I find that people in the UK or in Europe are more well-traveled than here in the States. Have you been to the US?
I've not. I've really not really been outside of Europe, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd love to get there for the national parks, I think mainly.
For the mainly. Okay. National parks. People here like probably, I mean, I've been to a couple, but I wonder if people here even go. What part of the U.S., like in addition to the national parks, if you had to go to a city, where would you go?
Interesting, because I'm not really a city person at all.
Okay.
But if I
So not New York. I just figured New York because it's like the closest flight kind of
Yeah.
from, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, probably New York. I don't really know much about other US cities, but I guess it's sort of thing. You get over there and then you start to, hear what other people say. Be like, okay, I'll go there.
You got to do New York. Although if you've probably been to London a lot, that's probably the closest thing. We got to go to like Las Vegas, Miami, and come to Los Angeles. I think you would dig it. Well, cool. So let's segue back into Rephonic. So do you when working on like written content, because I love written content, and I think I've actually had a much easier experience growing my website based getting a lot more views. I'm up to like maybe 6,000 to 8,000 monthly visitors, which for me is huge. That's way bigger than the podcast. And so, like, what are some other techniques that you use to grow the company, the website, the content? Are you strictly focused on like keywords, or do you do any like do you code or on page optimization? I guess just kind of walk me through a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my specialty, whatever you say it, however you say it, is the keywords and all of that kind of thing. And then because James, he's the techie guy, right? He created the database, so in terms of technical SEO, he takes care of that. But yeah, a lot. I mean, for Rephonic, a lot of the customers we get come from organic, and so it's really continually trying to optimize that and also see what else we can do and how we can build that. But we don't want to just stick everything everywhere. What's the phrase? Can't remember, but try everything and hope that something works. We get one thing done, and then once that's rolling, try something else.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I always wonder, because I'm all keyword based too, but I always wonder like the technical side of things, how much that affect like page speed and like all that, how that affects SEO and rankings. I think it does to some extent, but I agree with you. I'm all keyword based, I think. Do you think when either podcasting or writing, should people be strictly focused on keywords, or should they come up with just stuff that they want to write about that is obviously relevant, but that maybe doesn't have the data to know whether that's going to be a popular topic or not? Kind of, what are your thoughts on like the creative side of that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on your goal, right? To start with, if it's a hobby and you're just blogging or you're podcasting just because you like it and you don't have this massive goal of making it into this monetized thing or like a proper side hustle, in that case, I would stick just with the what you want to write about. But the more you get into the you're trying to monetize or it's your business, then I think you've got to be keyword focused, right? But also, having said that, stuff that people find interesting that is not keyword focused, that people are going to share, people are going to link back to, because, you know, backlinks, that's super important for SEO and getting your site ranked. So, I mean, that's essentially with the industry articles, you know, we're not focusing on any keywords. We're not trying to rank for them, but hopefully we're making something that the industry is going to find interesting and they're going to link to, and everyone's going to be talking about it, and then that will help, you know, boost the ranking of the whole site, not just that page.
And could you tell our listeners like what a backlink is? And then follow-up question, do you guys have like a paid backlink strategy, or is it all organic based on relationships?
Yeah, so it's all organic. And yeah, so a backlink is when another site links back to your site, and basically it passes what we would call SEO juice, because Google is looking for, basically Google likes to rank sites that are authoritative, they're an expert in their niche, and so by having lots of backlinks from other relevant sites that talk about similar things, and that they themselves have lots of backlinks too, that's going to help with your ranking. But there's some backlinks that are better for SEO than others. So you have the do follow links, which do pass this SEO juice, which is essential for ranking, and then you'll have the other links which don't pass the SEO juice, but you know, they're good for just relevancy. So you basically you're trying to get as many do follow backlinks as you can.
Yep. And you linked to me in that recent article you wrote, so appreciate that. That's awesome. I have a question, and this is kind of more on the technical side of Rephonic, but if you do know and you can like spread some information. So like, I know with Rephonic, one of the things is that like you have a database and it provides you with like podcasters like contact information or emails. How does that work? Is that just pulled from available information online, or do you guys have like a secret way of like getting that?
No, so that's all pulled. You know, we scan the internet, hundreds of sources, and then manage to pull that from all of those different sources and put it on the website, put it on the database. Sorry. So yeah, and sometimes like if we can't find the right contact information, or you're using Rephonic and you can't see what you're looking for, then we have what we call the Concierge Service, which is where you can just click a button.
Oh, talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about the that sounds awesome.
Concierge Service, yeah. So you can't find the contact information you want, it doesn't look right. You can click the button, and then, you know, our team will try and find better contacts for you, and then you'll get a notification when we found something. So yeah, because it's not always possible to find everything just by scanning without a bit of human intervention.
Is there additional services that concierge service provides? Is that it, or do you guys have like a very like client friendly approach where you're interacting with them and providing other stuff?
So the concierge service. Can't say either. Concierge.
Yeah, now
service,
we're all fucked up. We can't like say it.
So that's for finding the right contacts, but as well, like if you are on a podcast and something looks wrong or whatever, then you can click a button. You can be like, oh, I think it's this Instagram link or whatever, and then we'll have a look and update it. So. There's always a way in case something is not quite right, then we'll update it as and when we get notified.
Cool. And tell me a little bit about the YouTube channel, like the goal with that, what types of videos or what types of content you guys are putting on. Are you involved in that specifically?
So I'm not the face of it in any way, shape or form, but I was trying to strategize and trying to think about how we're going to use it and whatever. So initially we thought, oh, we'd create the videos on like the big 4 subjects. And
I'm gonna look at it right now.
Yeah, have a look. So I wrote the scripts, gave the prompts for James to record, and so then he recorded it in this studio in wherever he was at the time, and then we got someone to put it all together for us. And it's because it's, again, like YouTube is a search thing, right? So it's similar to Google, and so it's all about SEO and getting your videos to rank. And it's not something that I've done before, so it'll be interesting to kind of test it and optimize it and see how we go. We're not like dead set on what it is yet. We're just trying to sort of get it started.
Yeah, no, I'm checking it out right now. It looks like a lot of like educational stuff. Is the goal to be consistent and crank out videos? And is the goal with YouTube? Because I find with YouTube, like tutorials or like education based stuff performs really well. I feel like the less you kind of talk about your company, the better, although that's kind of like a side thing that happens, like lead generation. But I feel like, just putting out, like I'm looking at some videos right now, how to get on podcasts as a guest, how to advertise, like that stuff usually does really well. And my YouTube is not big by any means, but I've noticed like the consistency, and then like not one day it kind of takes off, but then one day it, like, at least for me, it's like my videos are probably getting double what they were like 6 months ago, which it's still a low number, but I think just that consistency pays off.
Would you say that's like the number one thing?
I think so. I mean, I think content is key. I think that's like number one. You got to have good content. I'd say content, I'd say consistency, and then I would say like production value is important. I mean, nowadays, like it kind of does have to look and sound good, or people will drop off of the video. But I'd say, content is number one. But just based on this right here, it looks like you guys are onto something. So that's excited. Is there anything in the works for a podcast, a Rephonic podcast? Has that been? It has to have been discussed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know if we've discussed that. I mean, I think, it's an idea, but again, it's sort of one for thinking about a bit later down the line, probably. But I guess it depends on skill sets as well and whatever. But there's lots of things we're sort of planning on and projects and stuff. So it's taking one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I'm just brainstorming, but you could have like the audio podcast, which is different from the YouTube channel, which is different from the written content. I feel like that's kind of how it is now. Like you got to get that whole ecosystem going eventually, and content is kind of similar, but it's different enough that Google can like look at it as different pieces. I mean, my goal, well, it's kind of a pipe dream, but I would love for like a topic, whether it's like how to launch a podcast, and then I've got like the written article on that comes up in like the top 10 on Google, a link to the YouTube video that comes up, and the audio podcast. I mean, that's
the dream.
That's a dream. Well, I listened to a podcast, Alex Hermosi. He's like are you familiar with Alex Hermosi? Yeah, that's like he talks about like HubSpot. I guess their strategy is like to just dominate like the top like 5 with just different pieces of content all around that specific search term. But we can all dream, right? So tell me a little bit about the podcast monetization feature on Rephonic. kind of how does that work? I'm looking at it, and I kind of studied it a little bit earlier, but tell me how that works.
What do you mean exactly? Sorry.
Advertise your business by discovering the top podcasts in your industry that share your target audience. Okay, so it's just more of like it gives you the shows again that like would be a good fit if you wanted to advertise on. I guess that's what it is.
Yes. Are you on the graph tool?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we touched on that earlier. Yeah. So that's the way you type in a podcast, and it comes up with a web, and you can see what shows you might want to advertise on or be a guest on or whatever. It's good for thinking a bit outside the box, because because you're a surfing podcast doesn't mean you have to only get featured on or advertise on shows about surfing. You think outside the box a little. I think I tested it on your show and to see what came up, like what little different pods would come up. So obviously you've got your pod of podcasts about podcasting, and then you've got side hustles, all of those kind of shows. You've got online business, entrepreneur, something else as well, I can't remember, but there's all these different kind of areas that you could think about reaching out to if you were doing cross promo, for example.
And have you guys gotten good feedback from like podcasters or like companies that have been using that, or like, oh, this is great, like this led me to this other person, and now I've like been developing a relationship and growing my network with them? Have you guys been getting good feedback on it?
Yeah, definitely. It tends to be the way that a lot of users find out about Rephonic, and then once they're actually using Rephonic on the database, if you're looking at a podcast, you can see a list of like 5 related shows, and then you can click to see more, or you can click on the graph as well. And so people use that a lot and use it to build up their lists of shows that they're going to reach out to.
Yeah, I've yet to try it. It's definitely, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. Yeah, it's definitely on my list of things to try. Like I mentioned, that guy at the conference, when he showed me, it kind of blew my mind, because one of my strategies moving forward is to guest on more shows. And sometimes I'm like, should I hit that person up? They're like sort of in my niche, but kind of not. But maybe we can fit together somehow. So just getting that like roadmap, I think, could help a lot of people. And I hopefully with this podcast that we're doing right now, and hopefully, we can introduce more people to that, because I think that would excite people and just kind of give them like the roadmap and the data. Because I think a lot of it, people just like me, they're like, should I hit them up? What would my audience think? What would their audience think? But if you kind of have a baseline to go off of, that's huge. Yeah.
And then once you've found them, it's all about finding that right angle, right?
The pitch. The pitch is the hardest part. Unless you kind of know them already and you're just like, yeah, let's do each other's show. But if they're like, if you've never met them, the pitch is hard. Do you have any, just in Rephonic or aside from Rephonic, do you have, because you're a content person and a writer, do you have any tips for like pitching, writing good pitches? Like, have you ever had to do any of that?
Yes. So I've done that in the past, not for being a guest or whatever on a podcast, but so what I would say is keep it short. You don't want to be waffling on and boring them. You've got a few seconds to capture their attention, and then it's straight in the bin if it's not, if it doesn't hook them. Make it concise. Make it, personalize it. You don't want to just be sending the same pitch to person after person, show after show. You want to show that you genuinely have listened to the show, or you think it's awesome for this reason. Otherwise they'll be like, you're just trying it on. And then adding a bit of personality, saying exactly what you are after as well. So especially like in the subject line, you don't need to think of this crazy phrase or whatever. Just literally put guest pitch and then your name and the angle or something. It doesn't have to, you don't need to think too much outside the box for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I always struggle with that, is like subject lines. I've heard two schools of thought. One is because I book guests for a show, and I'll put like, yeah, guest interview with XYZ for topic of ABC. But then I talked to someone else, and they're like, you kind of should put a hook in the subject line, not like as something outrageous, but something at least to get them to open it. So that's interesting. I like that, because that's two different points of view, being more direct or trying to be like a little I don't know, creative with it or something.
Yeah, I guess because my thinking is if you're pitching to be a guest on a show, you should already know if they take guests right or if they've taken guests in the past. And so if they do, then by just putting guest pitch in the title, they'll be like, okay, it could be an opportunity, rather than they don't know what it is, so they might not open it.
I like that. No, I like people having different schools of thoughts on this show. I think that's important. There's not one way to do anything. There's not one way to do content or to write or to book or to podcast. So very cool. Appreciate that, Becca. So tell me, well, we're wrapping up here, and as we round home, just let me know any exciting projects you've got going on with Rephonic or otherwise, and then tell the listeners if you want them to get in touch with you, what should they check out?
Sure. So, yeah, one of the cool things that we at Rephonic are doing at the moment is trying to incorporate YouTube, like YouTube podcasts onto the database. It's been a long time coming because, you know, YouTube has been, as a podcasting platform, has been talked about for ages now. And so it's, I think in the next, I don't want to say, actually, backtrack on that, but like very soon we'll have a way to see podcast YouTube videos on Rephonic. And nice. Then what was your other question again?
If people want to connect with Rephonic or connect with you, what's the best place?
So with Rephonic, we are on Twitter and LinkedIn at Get Rephonic.
No Insta.
No Insta. We keep it simple. Yeah. And then for me, I'm on LinkedIn, which is, you know, where I post a lot about Rephonic, pretty much only Rephonic. So yeah, you can find me on there, Becca Butcher.
Becca Butcher, cool. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Glad I got to learn more, and hopefully my audience got some more information about Rephonic and how it can help them. So thanks again, Becca. It was great having you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been super cool.